You are currently playing a game where the rules were changed without your consent. You have likely spent years believing in a specific contract with the world. If you work hard, if you are relentlessly kind, if you are transparent and available, you will be rewarded. You believe that meritocracy is a straight line, that input equals output. But look around your office, your social circle, or your family dynamics. Who actually holds the respect? Is it the person who exhausts themselves trying to please everyone? Or is it the person who holds back, who calculates, and who operates with a terrifying sort of calm? There is a glass ceiling you cannot see, but you can feel the headache from hitting it. The problem is not your effort. The problem is your software. You are running a moral operating system in a world that runs on a power operating system. The moral OS tells you that being a good person is enough. The power OS, however, is indifferent to your goodness. It only respects your leverage. Today we are going to dismantle the illusion of fairness and install the 7 drivers of social physics. These are not tips for being nasty. They are the defensive mechanisms required to stop being a casualty. The first law is the law of inflation. In economics, the principle is simple. The more of a currency you print, the less that currency is worth. If a central bank floods the market with cash, the value plummets. Yet, in your social and professional life, you likely violate this law every single day. You flood the market with yourself. You reply to messages within seconds. You say yes to every invite. You stay late to fix mistakes you didn't make. You believe this signals reliability. You think you are proving your worth. You are wrong. You are proving your cheapness. When you are instantly available, you signal low opportunity cost. You are telling the world subconsciously, I have nothing better to do than this. Consider the dynamic in a typical European workplace. There is the workhorse, the employee who is always online, always helpful, and always stressed. They are liked, certainly, but they are rarely promoted. They are part of the furniture. Then observe the consultant, or the senior leader. They are often hard to reach. Their emails are brief. They do not attend every optional meeting. And yet, when they speak, the room stops. When they finally offer a slot in their calendar, people prepare for it. This is strategic density. The consultant has density. The workhorse has none. The human brain uses a heuristic called scarcity to determine value. We do not crave what is abundant. We crave what is retreating. When you offer your presence as a default state, you are not being generous. You are creating inflation. You are teaching people that your attention is a free utility, like tap water, rather than a finite resource like gold. To reclaim your value, you must audit your supply. This brings us to a practical tool, the access ladder. Visualize your social and professional life not as a flat plane where everyone is equal, but as a vertical ladder. Most people let strangers, colleagues, and casual acquaintances stand on the top rung, granting them immediate access to their energy. Stop this. Place 80% of people on the bottom rung. They get politeness, but they do not get your urgency. If they email you, you reply on your schedule, not theirs. If they demand emotional labor, you decline. By artificially restricting the supply of your attention, you force the market to reevaluate its price. You are not playing a game. You are simply correcting the market rate of your own existence. But scarcity is only the first step. Once you have their attention, you must ensure you are not just a luxury, but a requirement for their survival. The second law moves us from the economics of presence to the mechanics of survival. It is the law of necessity. There is a dangerous misconception that safety in a relationship or a job comes from being loved. You believe that if people like you, if you are charming and agreeable, they will protect you. This is naive. Affection is volatile. It changes with the weather, with stress levels, and with the introduction of new, more interesting people. Affection is a mood. Necessity, however, is a fact. Most people instinctively try to secure their position by becoming the hero. When a crisis hits at work or in a friend group, the hero rushes in. They work overtime to fix the error. They mediate the argument. They carry the heavy boxes during the move. For a moment, they are bathed in gratitude. But gratitude has a very short half-life. Once the crisis is resolved, the hero is no longer required. Worse, the hero often becomes a reminder of the bad times. To be truly secure, you must stop trying to be the hero and start trying to be the architect. The hero is a consumable resource. They are used up to solve a problem. The architect is a structural necessity. Without them, the building collapses. Consider the dynamic of a typical social group planning a summer holiday. There is usually one person who brings the good vibes. They are funny, relaxed, and easy to get along with. Everyone loves them, but they are replaceable. If they drop out, it's a shame, but the holiday continues. Then there is the person who holds the logistics. They found the villa, they hold the deposit, they understand the local transport links, and they have the contact for the owner. They might be slightly more difficult, perhaps less fun, but they are the structural pillar of the event. If they withdraw, the entire plan disintegrates. In your professional life, this distinction is even sharper. Do not just be the employee who is great to work with. Be the employee who owns the relationship with the difficult key client. Be the only one who understands the legacy software that the entire company runs on. Be the one who knows where the bodies are buried in the filing system. When budget cuts come, and they always come, management does not look at who is nicest. They look at who is redundant. The nice person is a luxury the company can no longer afford. The structural pillar is a load-bearing wall. Removing it causes too much damage to be worth the risk. This sounds cold, but it is merely the physics of dependence. A person will leave someone they love for someone they need, but they will rarely leave someone they need for someone they simply love. To apply this, perform a necessity check on your current role in life. Ask yourself, if I stopped participating today, would the system break, or would it just be inconvenient? If the answer is merely inconvenient, you are in danger. You need to hoard a skill, a connection, or a responsibility that cannot be easily transferred. Stop training your replacements under the guise of being a team player. Help others, yes, but keep the master key for yourself. However, once you establish yourself as a necessity, you attract eyes. People watch the ones they rely on. They analyze you. And this leads us to the third law, because if you are transparent while you are powerful, you are simply a target waiting to be hit. We move now to the third law, which governs the flow of information, the law of concealment. You have likely been fed a thoroughly modern lie, that transparency is a virtue. You are told to bring your whole self to work, to be vulnerable, and to communicate your intentions clearly. In a high-trust environment, among family or deep allies, this is beautiful. But in the open market of status and power, transparency is not a virtue. It is a leak. The core principle here is information asymmetry. In any negotiation, warfare, or social maneuvering, the person who holds the most information holds the leverage. When you broadcast your plans, your anxieties, and your grievances, you are handing the other side a map of your psychological terrain. You are showing them exactly where to press to get a reaction, and exactly where to cut to cause the most damage. Consider the oversharer in a standard office environment. They are the person who loudly announces, "I'm thinking of leaving if I don't get that promotion." They believe this is a threat. It is not. It is a warning shot that allows their enemies to prepare. Management now knows they are unhappy, so they stop giving them long-term projects. Colleagues know they are looking for the exit, so they stop sharing critical information. By the time the person actually tries to leave, they have already been neutralized. They made themselves predictable, and predictability is the death of power. Contrast this with the operator who understands the black box theory. A black box is a device where you can see the input and the output, but the internal mechanism is completely hidden. When you become a black box, you stop broadcasting your internal state. You do not explain why you are doing something. You simply do it. Imagine a salary negotiation. The amateur fills the silence. They nervously explain that they need a raise because of inflation, or their rent went up, or they feel undervalued. They are giving the employer data points to argue against. They are revealing that they are desperate. The professional, however, states their number and then does something terrifying. They stop talking. They create a vacuum. The human brain abhors a vacuum. When you present someone with silence, their brain rushes to fill it, and usually they fill it with their own fears. The employer looks at the silent employee and thinks, why aren't they nervous? Do they have another offer? Are they headhunted? By concealing your true position, you force others to project power onto you. You become a screen for their anxieties, and they will often negotiate against themselves just to break the tension. You must stop engaging in what I call recreational honesty. This is the habit of telling people your goals before you have achieved them. I'm going to lose 10 kilos. I'm going to start a business. Psychology tells us that the social praise you get from the announcement releases dopamine, satisfying the hunger before you've even done the work. But socially, it does something worse. It invites sabotage. The moment you articulate an ambition that exceeds the group's average, you trigger their insecurity. They will not attack you directly. They will offer concern. Are you sure that's wise in this economy? That sounds very risky. These are not friends protecting you. These are crabs dragging you back into the bucket. To master this law, you need to go on an information diet. Stop leaking. If you are angry, wear a mask of calm. If you are desperate, wear a mask of options. If you are planning a coup, talk about the weather. Adopt the practice of decoy signals. If you want to seize authority, pretend you are only interested in stability. By the time they realize your true intention, the ink should already be dry on the contract. However, hiding your intentions is only half the battle. You must also learn to control the emotional weight of your connections, because the person who cares the most is always the one who loses. We have established the external fortifications, scarcity, necessity, and concealment. But these are merely tactics. If your internal state is chaotic, these walls will eventually crumble. This brings us to the fourth law, which governs the energy of every connection you will ever make, the law of investment. Sociologists call this the principle of least interest. It states that in any relationship, whether it is a romantic bond, a business partnership, or a friendship, the power lies with the person who is least invested in the relationship's continuation. The person who is willing to walk away holds the leverage. The person who cannot walk away holds the bill. You are likely suffering right now because you are habitually on the wrong side of this equation. You are the over-functioner. You are the one monitoring the health of the connection. You are the one asking, "Are we okay?" You are the one analyzing the tone of the email or the length of the silence. This anxiety is not just painful for you, it is repulsive to others. In the unspoken language of hierarchy, visible anxiety smells like submission. It signals that you need the other person more than they need you, and that creates an imbalance that human nature instinctively exploits. Imagine a set of old-fashioned weighing scales. You are on one side, and the other person is on the other. When they pull back, when they become distant, cold, or busy, they are stepping off their side of the scale. The balance tips. Your instinct, driven by fear, is to rush to their side, to weigh it down, to fix the imbalance, to chase them. You send the double text. You offer a discount. You ask, "What's wrong?" By doing this, you have not fixed the balance. You have confirmed that you will do all the work to maintain the connection. You have taught them that their distance generates your effort. To regain your sovereignty, you must master emotional asymmetry. This does not mean becoming a sociopath who feels nothing. It means cultivating the ability to detach your self-worth from the outcome of the interaction. You must stop being a thermometer and start being a thermostat. Most people are thermometers. If the room is anxious, they become anxious. If the partner is angry, they become defensive. They merely reflect the temperature of their environment. A thermostat, however, sets the temperature. If the room is chaotic, the thermostat remains cool. If the partner is distant, the thermostat does not chase. It simply stands still. When you stop chasing, you flip the dynamic. You force the other person to feel the weight of their own distance. If they step back and you do not step forward, a void is created. And as we know, nature abhors a vacuum. They will feel the sudden lack of your energy. They will wonder why you aren't fixing it. The anxiety shifts from you to them. This is the hardest law to practice, because it requires you to sit with discomfort. It requires you to look at a silence and not fill it. It requires you to look at a potential loss and accept it. But here is the paradox. People are drawn to those who do not need them. We are magnetized by autonomy. When you prove to someone that you are your own center of gravity, that you can survive without their validation, they will orbit you. Start practicing this in low-stakes scenarios. When a conversation naturally dies, let it die. Do not resuscitate it. When someone takes 3 days to reply, do not punish them, but do not reward them with instant availability. Match their energy or give slightly less. But remember, this internal detachment is invisible. To truly dominate the environment, you must also control what people see. You must curate the spectacle. We arrive now at the fifth law, the law of the interface. You have been raised on a modest, comforting lie. Don't judge a book by its cover. It is a beautiful sentiment for a kindergarten classroom. In the real world, however, it is a recipe for invisibility. The reality is that the cover is the only thing 99% of people will ever see. We are creatures of the surface. We are cognitive misers. Our brains are designed to make split-second judgments to save energy. We judge competence by confidence. We judge wealth by restraint. We judge authority by posture. If you are hiding your light under a bushel because you believe that virtue is its own reward, you will die in the dark. The world does not reward the best man. It rewards the most visible man. This brings us to the sociological concept of dramaturgy, proposed by Irving Goffman. He argued that social life is a performance. There is a front stage, where we curate our image for the audience, and a back stage, where we collapse, take off the mask, and are truly ourselves. The mistake you are making is dragging your backstage onto the front stage. You think this makes you authentic. In reality, it makes you messy. It makes you difficult to read. Consider the invisible worker in every office. They are often the most competent person in the room. They do the deep work. But they look frazzled. They rush. They apologize for small errors. They dress for comfort, not for status. They believe their work should speak for itself. But work does not speak. Work is mute. Now observe the person who gets the promotion. They might do half the actual labor, but they understand the interface. They walk slowly because rushing signals a lack of control over time. They speak with a downward inflection, ending sentences as statements rather than questions. They curate their appearance not to be flashy, but to be distinct, to signal that they respect themselves enough to maintain a standard. They are not better workers. They are simply broadcasting on a higher frequency. You must stop viewing this curation as fake. It is not fake. It is a user interface. Think of yourself as a piece of high-end software. You might have the most powerful code in the world, but if the user interface is cluttered, ugly, and confusing, nobody will use the software. By refusing to curate your image, you are forcing people to work hard to respect you. Most won't bother. To master the law of the interface, you must perform a signal audit. Look at yourself through the cold lens of a stranger. What is your signal-to-noise ratio? If you walk with your head down, avoiding eye contact, you are broadcasting submission. You are telling the predators, "I am prey." If you use filler words, like, sort of, you are broadcasting uncertainty. If you post your emotional breakdowns on social media, you are broadcasting instability. Clean the signal. Lift your chin. Slow down your movements. Powerful people do not rush. They move as if the time belongs to them. When you speak, remove the apology from your tone. Instead of saying, "Sorry, can I just ask a question?" Say, "I have a question." The difference is subtle, but it is the difference between asking for permission to exist and taking up space. Create an image of managed mystery. Do not be the person who posts their breakfast, their dog, and their gym session every day. That is not transparency. That is banality. Curate your image so that people see only what you want them to see: competence, strength, and calm. This feels artificial to you? Good. That means you are finally detaching from the ego and treating your public persona as a tool. But a sharp image is useless if you do not know how to use the blade. You look the part, you have the leverage, and you have the control. Now you must learn how to strike. We end with the law that separates the leaders from the cowards, the law of the clean cut. This governs conflict, timing, and the necessary act of removal. You have been socialized to believe that kindness means softness. When you have to deliver bad news, fire an employee, end a relationship, or cut off a toxic friend, you hesitate, you drag it out, you use the feedback sandwich: praise, criticism, praise. You agree to stay friends to avoid hurting their feelings. You think you are being gentle. You are not. You are being a torturer. By delaying the inevitable, you are using a dull knife. You are sawing through the connections slowly, causing infection, resentment, and a pain that lasts for months instead of days. The Machiavellian mindset requires you to think less like a diplomat and more like a surgeon. If a limb is rotting, you do not massage it. You do not negotiate with it. You excise it. Consider the nice manager versus the executive. The nice manager has an employee who is poisoning the team culture. The manager feels guilty, so they give soft warnings. They put the employee on a vague improvement plan. The toxic employee stays for 6 more months spreading negativity, while the high performers, the ones you actually need, get frustrated and leave. The manager's kindness to one person was cruelty to the group. The executive acts differently. They observe, they document, they wait for the precise moment where the evidence is undeniable. And then they call a 10-minute meeting. There is no shouting, there is no negotiation, there is only the severance. It is shocking, it is cold. But because it is final, the team can immediately begin to heal. The oxygen returns to the room. You must learn to distinguish between a mistake and rot. A mistake can be coached. Rot must be cut. If a client constantly disrespects your boundaries, do not send a polite email asking for better treatment. Raise your rates until they leave or fire them. If a partner plays games with your emotional safety, do not write them a letter explaining your feelings. Walk away. This requires the discipline of timing. The amateur is always frantic. They react immediately to every insult. The master waits. They sit in the tension. They let the other person make the mistake, overextend, or reveal their hand. And when the moment is right, they strike once, and they never look back. You now possess the 7 laws of social physics. The law of inflation. Scarcity creates value. The law of necessity. Dependence creates safety. The law of concealment. Silence creates power. The law of investment. Detachment creates control. The law of the interface. Perception creates reality. And the law of the clean cut. Finality creates respect. These laws are not nice. They contradict everything you were taught in school. But school was designed to create workers, not architects. It was designed to create people who are predictable, compliant, and easy to manage. But you feel something different, don't you? That is why you are still listening. You are tired of being the piece on the board. You are ready to be the hand that moves it. The choice is now yours. You can return to the cage, where it is warm and safe, and where you can pretend the world is fair. Or you can step out into the cold, apply these laws, and build a fortress that cannot be shaken. The world is sharp. Carry a velvet dagger. If you are ready to stop being a casualty and start being an architect, subscribe. We are just getting started. Script completed.